SAS Demonstration, Introduction to ODS and Options Statements. This demonstration utilizes the treatment of mild hypertension dataset that was used for the descriptive statistics demonstration. So the code in the beginning here is exactly the code that was used for the descriptive statistics demonstration. We are going to start by first looking at how option statements are used to control various settings for your session, such as the line and page size of your output window. So here I have several option statements that I have commented out so they won't show up when we run the program. This is what I meant about how you can use comments to include or exclude code when you're running a program. So you can actually comment out pieces of code, and then when you take the comments out, the comment signs, then those particular pieces of code will run in your program. So here I'm going to show you, we're going to do a proc means of height, weight, and BMI with no option statements. And I want to point out some things in the output window when no option statements are used. Notice that the data is centered, and we have a date, and we have a page number. So this is the default. If you put in no options in SAS, this is how it's going to appear. I'm going to take out these comments, and now we are going to have two option statements. In the first option statement, I'm giving a way of printing out the proc means table, so it's easier to take that table from the output window and copy it into Word. In the second option statement, I'm requesting that no date appear in the output window, the data not be centered, and that there is no page number. So let's run this exact same code and see how these options have affected our output window. Notice now our title and our output is all left justified, and that we have a slightly different type of line in the proc means output. So compare this to the output that was generated by default. Notice we no longer have a date or a page number. Now the options that I requested in this option statement will stay in place the entire SAS session. Once I exit SAS and open SAS again, if I don't put in any option statements, then just the default options will be in place. Now we are going to talk about SAS ODS, or the Output Delivery System. One of the benefits of ODS is that you can selectively include portions of the output to go to the output window, thus reducing the amount of output generated. Each piece of output has a name that can be selected. Now, as you may recall, proc univariate generates an awful lot of output, and so sometimes we're not interested in having all the output proc univariate by default prints out, and so we might like to select a portion of the output. To learn about the names of the different pieces of output, you need the following two statements. ODS trace on listing, which goes before the procedure that you're interested in learning about the names of the pieces of output. And then at the end of that procedure, you would type ODS trace off. And this works for all procedures, even regression, ANOVA, logistic regression. And so if you run this bit of code, you are going to see in the output window that the pieces of the output have names. So here, the first bit of output that proc univariate produces is called moments. That's the name, moments. The second piece of output is called basic measures, and it's all one word. And that's where it lists the basic statistical measures, the location, the variability. The next piece of output is called tests for location. So with the ODS trace on, the output is all shown with the names that ODS calls that portion of the output. Once you know the names of the output objects, you can use an ODS Select statement to choose just the output objects you want. So let's say I'm only interested in having SAS print out just the basic measures and quantiles. with the statement ODS Select Basic Measures Quantiles, that's all that's going to be displayed in the output window. And again, the way you have ODS select just portions of the output is you need to give the names, the actual names of those pieces of output. So now I'm going to run the code where we just show basic measures and quantiles. So in this bit of code, only two pieces of the proc univariate procedure are shown, just the basic statistical measures and just the quantiles. And again, this can be helpful if you're trying to produce reports and you only want selected pieces of output shown that you're then going to copy into Word. It saves time in terms of editing. Remember, procedures produce data and send it to ODS, which determines where the output should go. So ODS, or the Output Delivery System, is always being used. The question is whether to accept the default output or something else. So one thing you can do with the Output Delivery System is you can create RTF files. The output is prettier and can be read by MS Word and edited there. So here I'm going to give an example where I'm going to create an RTF file called plot1, and I'm going to run this code proc print, proc means, proc freq, and I'm sending it to this file here. I've included a statement called body title, which puts the titles and footnotes in the main part of the RDF document instead of in the Word headers or footers. So if you wanted to create an RTF file and send it to a jump drive, you would just put the location of the jump drive and give a title for your RTF file. So let's run this and see what happens. Notice that we start with the statement ODS RTF file and the location, and I've given this option body title. Then I include all the SAS code, all the procedures that I want to be outputted to the RTF file underneath this ODS statement, and then I end with ODS RTF close. So let's run this and see what happens. What comes up is whether you want to open or save this file. The file is already saved because I gave the file directory. So I'm going to open it up and let's take a look at it. And here we see Word is automatically opened up. And notice here how nice our output looks. Also, notice that you can go in and edit any portion of your tables. You could go in and delete some of these titles so that these tables come out closer together. For example, here you could delete this title and you can put in your own titles. And so it's a very nice way to create attractive looking output that you can then send to a researcher or if you're preparing a report. Now we'll go back to SAS. With the Output Delivery System, you can change the look of your output with the Style Equals option. In the little SAS book on page 153, they list lots of different options for how your output could look. So here I've selected a style called Ocean. And there are a number of other styles, and I'm going to show you several of the styles. So again, we've got the exact same code that we showed before. We're including body title so that our titles appear within the main document. And let's see what happens when we do this Style Equals option. I'm creating a different file now called plot2, so that's where this output is going to be saved. And again, I end this group of statements with the ODS RTF close. So now take a look. With Ocean, we see things a little bit differently. We have a different font, we have a different color. Same output, just appears slightly different because we've changed the style. Let's say instead of Style Equals Ocean, we want to do Style Equals Minimal. So I'm going to comment out the Style Equals Ocean and do Style Equals Minimal. And again, I'm creating a different file for this output. And now we have a totally different looking style. This is a very good one to use if you are creating a report because it looks very much like a typed report. So again, you see a whole different look for the tables. You can also customize your titles and footnotes to make the output prettier for reports. So in this next example, I am doing some things like changing the way my title appears. I'm left justifying it. I'm giving it a height of 1/4 inch in a color that's blue. And so that is how my title, Proc Print 5 Observation from the TUM Study, is going to appear. Similarly, I'm changing the title for Proc Means. So I'm giving it a height of 0.20 inches, color equals red. The font is Times New Roman. And then for the Proc Means example 2, I'm putting it in italic. And then I'm doing something totally different with Proc Freak. So I'm kind of having fun here, just trying different things. Again, the little SAS book is very helpful at giving suggestions of ways that you can change and customize your titles and footnotes to make the reports look interesting. And again, I'm saving this output to a totally different file. I'm using style equals ocean. So notice we've done some kind of kooky things here. I've changed the color of the first title. Notice that the Proc Means example 2 is in italics and it's right justified in the color red. For the Proc Freak, I've centered the title. I've made the color a kind of purplish. So again, I'm just kind of having some fun here doing some different things with the title statements to show you how you have control with the output delivery system. The default fonts for titles and footnotes are bold and italic. So I've showed several examples of changing the font. I made the font equal to Courier for the Proc Freak. I made the font equal to Times New Roman for Proc Means. And when you're doing the Times New Roman font, you have to put the whole thing in quotes because it's more than just one word. With the output delivery system, you can customize Proc Print output as well as Proc Report and Tabulate, which we will talk about later in the course. So here, with the Proc Print statement, you can actually change how your variables are going to be printed out. So not only are you modifying the title, but you are actually modifying the variables themselves. So we have two different var statements in this Proc Print, and we're changing the font of how the words are displayed for Proc Print. So here we're making patient ID or PTID in italic, and we're giving the weight of the font a bold. And then we're leaving height, weight, and BMI as just default, how it's normally printed. So let's see what happens when we modify some of the variables that are printed out with Proc Print. So you can see again, things are looking pretty kooky. I've changed the titles for the first Proc Print in a much smaller size. In the second one, I make it much bigger. Notice I've made the patient ID in italics. So each patient ID is in italics, whereas height, weight, and BMI appear the way the default prints. I've been able to change the backgrounds of each of the background of the column headers and the background of the observations themselves. And this can all be done right within the Proc Print procedure. This is a benefit of using ODS with Proc Print, and you can also use this in Tabulate and Proc Report. These are all procedures where you're actually writing up reports of data, listings of data. In this last example, I'm again showing you all the different things you can do with the output delivery system, and basically I am customizing all of the variables. So I'm customizing patient ID, I'm making the font style italic, the font weight bold. For the variables height, weight, and BMI, I'm using a font face of Helvetica, font weight bold. I'm changing the colors to aqua. For the header, the background for the data, yellow, the background for the observation column, pink. So again, I refer you to the little SAS book for ideas of ways that you can make your output look interesting. So here you can see this is how the output looks with no options. And actually this is the RTF default. So if you did not have any style equals, this is how the RTF file would look. And then I've changed the print for how observations for height, weight, and BMI appear. Again, I've made the patient ID in italics. The background for all the data is yellow. The column headings are aqua, and then the observations themselves, that column is listed with a pink background. So you may want to explore how you can use ODS to create RTF files and have some fun trying different styles, trying different colors, different fonts, and seeing how you can make your output more interesting. This concludes the demonstration on ODS and options.